Hello, my name is Richard Salva. I am the author of several books on the subjects of reincarnation and past lives, all based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, the author of the classic autobiography of the yogi. What are karmic bombs, and how can we best deal with them? I went through a very challenging time many years ago. During that period when I was in the midst of it, I did an internal reckoning and realized that every part of my life had fallen apart. Every outward aspect of my life, work, financial, social status, health, had taken an abrupt nosedive. Even my car had broken down, but that wasn't all. At the same time as my internal world was falling apart, I was experiencing what is known in spiritual circles as a dark night of the soul. The usual peace and joy I felt in my daily meditations had temporarily abandoned me. I remember one afternoon I was lying on the floor of my apartment. I had suffered a significant back injury, but I'd also recently injured my shoulder very painfully while lifting my upper body up using my arms to protect my back. It was the middle of summer and incredibly hot, and I had no air conditioning. With the heat and the pain and the many crises in my life all combined together, it really seemed like a kind of living hell. At one point, while adjusting my body on my foam pad and sleeping bag, I found that there was no position I could place my body in that was not either very uncomfortable or likely to exacerbate my injury. In that moment, I laughed and said to God, you have to give me some position, some corner of my world I can rest in. I was in the epicenter of what is known as a karmic bomb, a large bundle of negative karma all coming to fruition at once. And the odd thing was, I had anticipated this experience. A day or so before everything began to unravel, I remember walking around my apartment complex, and out of nowhere the words, "Oh no, here it comes," went through my mind. Somehow I knew that something big and difficult, some black cloud, was on the horizon. I knew it was on its way, I just didn't know what form it would take. And it didn't take me long to figure out that I knew it was coming because I'd experienced something like it before. Not in this life, but in a former life. It was familiar to me, and the period leading up to it also felt familiar. This whole karmic bomb scenario took place in the midst of a 10-year period in which I was being made to understand a great deal about karma and past lives, and in particular, my own karma and past lives, and how they were affecting me in the present moment. Because this is the big thing, is that often our karma and our past lives affect us right now in the present. During that time, I learned a great deal about these subjects through the study of Yogananda's teachings, and especially through personal experiences and through insights born of meditation. And one insight that came very clear to me is that we tend to attract certain experiences over and over again in many lifetimes so that we can learn from them. Well, let's look at it this way. Let's say that all of the key experiences of all of our lifetimes are laid out as points in a circle. Say there are 360 of them, and each is a point on the outside of that circle. Then give that circle a third dimension so that it stretches up and down and becomes a cylinder. If you take a point on that circle or on that cylinder, call it everything falling apart, every so often, not in every incarnation, but every once in a great while, we hit on that point and everything in our life goes topsy-turvy. The thing is that we will pass through that experience over and over. We will magnetize it to us, partly through fear and partly through the magnetism of our past habits, until we have mastered it. And the only way to master it is to put out our best energy to meet the high energy of the test, to rise up to meet the big wave falling on us, to do our best, be the best we can be while facing the test, even when it is most difficult. And I realized when this experience was happening to me, when everything in my life was falling apart, that I needed to meet the test every day with the best energy and attitude I could in each moment. What I could manage may not have been perfect or outstanding even in each instant, but each time it was the best that I could do. And just doing that strengthened me. Because when we do that, we raise ourselves a little higher up that cylinder I was talking about, at least at that point of it. And we start a momentum to continue to move higher on that cylinder every time we face that same test until we reach a point where we have mastered the situation, to the point where a similar situation would no longer bother us or stir fear in our hearts. And then we are free. We stop attracting that kind of test, or at least when it does come, it no longer affects us. Because to do the opposite, to fall beneath the wave and let it roll us under the surf, to just give in and weep and moan and lower our energy in some forlorn hope that somehow the test will go away, what that does is set up a habit for the future of collapsing during tests, and a momentum that will make the next test to come that much harder to deal with. And next time we face that particular test, we will face it farther down on the cylinder rather than farther up. And likely, over long stretches of time, we will have to face more versions of the test than if we'd done our best. And so, while facing our tests, we have to take a long-range view. We have to remember the future. Remember our future selves. Do our best for him or her. Make it easier on them so that they can take the baton from us and continue to move forward. Make them stronger and better able to handle the extreme tests. And so every day while meeting my tests of everything falling apart, I remembered my future self and did my best to fulfill my obligations to him. My test lasted months in some aspects, and years in others, but I continued to struggle on. In the end, when it was all over and I could look back, I saw that I had truly done my best. I had met my obligations of both my current and future selves, and I felt stronger for having gone through the process. And the next time, years later, when something quite different came up that was also very difficult, somehow the problem didn't seem quite so overwhelming and hard to deal with. It was definitely still a challenge, but it didn't overwhelm me. And this is how we grow. We grow by raising our energy to meet the difficult tests through patience and fortitude, and by remembering the debt we owe our future selves.